So it is panel 1, Innovative Transdisciplinary Development and Transfer of Know-how and Multilateral Cooperation, Addressing World Challenges for the Rehabilitation of Emblematic Monuments. This is a discussion following what you have heard and seen at the opening session. At the panel, which I have the honor to moderate, the Secretary General of Research and Innovation, Dr. Gaitanis, is excused due to urgent government commitments, as well as Manolis Kores, Professor Emeritus from the National Technical University of Athens, School of Architecture, today Academy of Athens, due to commitments to the Ministry of Culture. But there are present from the Interdisciplinary Committee, Professor Georgopoulos, you met him at the opening session, from the International Board of ICOMOS, Professor Haris Mouzakis, Civil Engineering School. He is here, he will join us in a while. Dr. Themistoklis Vlachoulis from the Ministry of Culture is excused, he is out of Athens. But from Istanbul, we have Professor Hasan Firat Diker from Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakif University, the Faculty of Architecture and Design, Professor. We have Professor Emeritus Ismini Kriari from Pantheon University of Social and Political Science, former rector, and on behalf of the European Research and Educational Center of Bioethics and Legislation, and Spiros Papas, a doctor European lawyer who used to be a former Director General of the Directorate General of Education, Culture and Mass Media of the European Commission, and he is indeed today the President of Argo, the Hellenic Network in Belgium. Starting with this panel, which has to present, assess and evaluate the transfer of know-how, which is arising from many experiences of emblematic monuments. We will first, the 6 of us, the 5 present and the 6 who will come, for more or less 5 minutes to present the case we want to present, and then we will follow questions which will arise from you attending the panel or the ones we would like to pose, and we will finish more or less until 12:45, that the second panel discussion will start. So, I will start with, sorry. It doesn't go backwards, so I have to come to the end and then start again. Can you please recharge my presentation? Okay. So, concerning restoration, preservation, revealing of cultural heritage and its values, and in front of the project Evlogon for the model interdisciplinary development and transfer of know-how and cooperation for the preservation of emblematic monuments, especially in the case of Holy Tomb, highlighting the values of Christianity in dialogue with society. I have to say that the next day for us is to develop these mechanisms of transferability. That means, first of all, organizing the material, publishing, presenting, books, videos, editions, advanced digital exhibitions for comprising with all the relevant material the digital repository for standardizing the procedures of studies and works and assessing and evaluating best practices, developing a national network in order to transmit and implement in the technical procedures all this which we searched out, to feed in competence center as a methodology and roadmap, competence center to develop the skills in Greece, hand by hand with the European Competence Center that is existing, and Roberto Di Giulio is here in his panel. We will discuss on this joint venture. And of course, with open workshops to exhibit the non-destructive testing, the 3D surveys, methodologies, and others, and mainly to develop the interdisciplinary dialogue among humanities and technical engineering sciences. Concerning the rehabilitation of the Holy Edicule, the innovative methodology to ensure structural integrity with compatibility, performance of materials and interventions, to preserve and highlight the values and to ensure sustainability, the innovative prospection of the non-visible layers of the edicule as a major tool for its rehabilitation was performed by non-destructive investigations and their 3D representation on the level of the monument, as well as by using these methods to assess the effectiveness of all the materials and interventions during the works, to ensure structural integrity, where a multi-layered finite element model was developed upon the 3D model and all the data inputs from the materials and interventions, in order to assess and evaluate the response of the retrofitted structure and validate it, the preservation and highlight of values of the monument, with major moment the opening, the lifting of the stone of the tomb, and revealing the burial monument, which permitted us to innovative non-destructive inspection of the morphology, the revealing of the history through archaeometry, something we will discuss about in the relevant panel 5, I think, through archaeogenomics, that means to define the microbiota, which is validating the archaeometric results. And finally, concerning the sustainability at risk of the monument under intense rising damp from the underground, which we inspected, with non-destructive techniques and robots. We investigated along with the 3D investigation all the underground environment, the historic remnants, and we suggested, by delivering the Holy Edicule, we delivered the study for the foundation underpinning, reinforcement, water and humidity control, and as well as the sewage network, in order to sustain the rotunda and the Holy Sepulchre as a whole. Of course, the remote data acquisition ceased, and the multimodal performance health monitoring, which is a must, is not in execution right now. But within this holistic approach and the development of a digital core where all these interdisciplinary data were uploaded, we were going to a holistic digital-driven approach, which might bring together all the scientific fields. We started by a fragmented approach, but this digital core becomes the base for transdisciplinarity. At the moment of the project, it was the core of the scientific support to decision making, a very important tool for the very complex integrated governance of the project, where you might see the three Christian leaders, the scientific team, the interdisciplinary one of the NTUA, and the construction site governing team, supported by the scientific support that NTUA was giving, and by an innovative multi-layered data management, which permitted to accomplish the works within 8 months and a half, with transparency, staying at the estimated budget of 3.5 more or less million euros, and presenting it publicly. That is the major effort on the level of innovation of the Tomb of Christ project. But what is not seen here is the historic decision of the three Christian leaders. You will see it later, because if we are going to another emblematic monument where NTUA has performed along with our Turkish colleagues and American colleagues, according to a protocol agreement of '94, Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, Princeton University, Boğaziçi University, and National Technical University had a protocol agreement to work together in complementarity for the earthquake protection of Hagia Sophia and for the revealing of the mosaics, of the plastered mosaics. That means we performed with these other institutions works that led to a Greek-Turkish agreement on cultural cooperation for first time ever, which was actually endorsed by the parliaments of Greece and Turkey till the 2020. And the actual achievement was that during the 17th August 1999 earthquake, Hagia Sophia, due to all this complex work where we contributed as well, stayed shaken but not stirred. It stayed intact. And as Professor Ahmet Çakmak from Princeton said, a distinguished Turkish professor, it was the God of Greece and Turkey that all this scientific cooperation sustained the monument. However, a lot of achievements, one of which what Hassan Firat Diker has accomplished was the revealing of the face of the angel after the non-destructive investigation and all the data from NTUA they had at their hands. And the study of and the work accomplished at the Catholic of the Church of Varnakova in Phokis, one of the most important post-Byzantine, Meso-Byzantine churches of Greece, which was the center for the revolution of 1821 in Rumeli. We performed the same methodology as in the Holy Edicule, and an almost totally destroyed monument by the earthquake has been restored in a sustainable way. So through these and other monuments, we had integrated a 5D data integration on the level of the monument through the RESPECT project, and we are now, through Evlogon, to develop a methodological base and transfer of know-how to various use cases through a data repository of emblematic works. This is a presentation to the 4CH final meeting in Brussels with Professor Rocco Zarnich, where Professor Di Giulio had invited us. And we hope that methodology and roadmap of a competence center will be feasible to follow this methodology. We will discuss this among these days. In our case, it is very important to work on the level of transdisciplinary dialogue. As you might see through these panel discussions, the second on religious monuments, the third on dissemination of values and narratives, the fifth on archaeometry and archaeogene, and of course this is in honor and commemoration of Professor Nikos Zacharias, who passed away, on novel educational approach, on digital heritage in AI era, in preserving compatibility, materiality of structures and authenticity, earthquake protection, novel education, advanced non-destructive techniques, and bridging heritage stakeholders with society. Of course, the innovation of communication strategies, bringing to society the messages of the monuments, is novel, but the most important is what in the title of this conference exists. The multilateral collaboration that is the basic pillar of all the rehabilitation efforts on emblematic monuments. Concerning the Holy Sepulchre, this historic decision of the Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Jerusalem, Theophilus III, the Custos of the Holy Land, Francesco Patton, and the Armenian Patriarch, who after 200 years, first time ever through the dialogue on this project, decided to go for the rehabilitation. And the second, the Greek-Turkish agreement on cultural cooperation, which sustained our protocol agreement when we started with Princeton University, Bogazici, Kandeli Observatory, National Technical University of Athens, and took it up to 2020 as a common agreement of two people, the people of Greece and Turkey, that are having a great friendship, even though the conflicts that are developed within our history. Finally, I always finish with the message of hope, because the tomb of Christ is alive, as hope is alive in our hearts. Thank you very much. So I would like to ask Professor Georgopoulos to take the floor. Please.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Moropoulou. I will be brief, as I should, and I will focus on the documentation, as my specialty is on that, and how this can contribute to the main theme of this conference. So, digital documentation of cultural heritage stands today, but already since 1964, when the Venice Charter was first adopted, as a cornerstone in our collective effort to safeguard the memory, identity, and values embedded in the world's heritage, including the most emblematic monuments. But its impact goes beyond preservation. It acts as a catalyst for innovative transdisciplinary development, knowledge transfer, and meaningful multilateral cooperation, all of which are essential to addressing the complex global challenges we face in monument rehabilitation. At its core, digital documentation, through technologies like digital photogrammetry, 3D laser scanning, GIS and H-beam mapping, and virtual or augmented reality, creates high-resolution, shareable, and enduring records of cultural assets. These digital twins are not merely archives, they are dynamic platforms that empower architects, archaeologists, historians, engineers, urban planners, material scientists, and other experts to collaborate in new and impactful ways. This convergence of disciplines fosters innovation. Conservation methods can now integrate data-driven models to simulate structural stress, assess climate impacts, and experiment with sustainable restoration techniques. For instance, through virtual reconstruction, we can test restoration hypotheses, non-invasively protecting both the monument and the surrounding community. Furthermore, artificial intelligence and big data analysis are enabling predictive models that help us anticipate degradation patterns before irreversible damage occurs. Beyond technological advancement, digital documentation enables the transfer of know-how across borders and generations. Open access platforms and cloud-based archives democratize heritage knowledge, making it available to students, engineers, or artisans all over the world. Training models built on digital twins allow experts to share best practices globally, adapting traditional techniques to modern challenges without losing authenticity. Perhaps more significantly, digital heritage serves as a diplomatic bridge for multilateral cooperation. Joint documentation efforts, like UNESCO's World Heritage Sites digital archives, often bring together countries in conflict or crisis, and sometimes not, aligning them toward a common cultural goal. In this way, digital heritage becomes a soft power tool for peace building and global solidarity. We live in a time when war, climate change, urban expansion, and neglect threaten the continuity of cultural memory. The rehabilitation of emblematic monuments is not only about bricks and mortar, it's about cultural resilience. Digital documentation enables us to respond faster, smarter, and more inclusively. It ensures that cultural heritage is not a static relic of the past, but a living, evolving source of inspiration and innovation. In conclusion, as we stand at the intersection of tradition and technology, we should embrace digital documentation as more than a preservation tool. It is a transformative force for transdisciplinary creativity, cross-border knowledge exchange, and international cooperation. By doing so, we not only rehabilitate monuments, we reimagine heritage as a shared global future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Georgopoulos. Professor Mouzakis is not still here. I will pass to Hassan Firatiker and ask for his intervention. And welcome you to Athens, Hassan.
Thank you very much, dear Professor, for inviting me here. Dear audience, I am glad to exist in such a panel where many experts come together once again to reinterpret history in this ancient city attributed to the warrior goddess Athena. I would have preferred to be in a world with more peaceful conditions. But as the first quarter of the 21st century has passed, it seems humanity has not learned much from the previous century. While the digital revolution offers unique opportunities for documentation, it's hard to say that it has provided us with better and safer living spaces. In a world where authoritarianism is on the rise, mass massacres occur, and freedoms are narrowed, it can be argued that scientific collaborations might also be conducted on slippery and uncertain grounds. The anxieties created by the future and the uncertain, indefinite nature of today's present can provide favorable conditions for searching for a longing for an unlived past in the legacy of history. Just as it is possible to mythologize and heroize the ancestors, it is similarly found possible to make the spaces they inhabited functional for the modern world, in ways they could never have anticipated. Thus, the spirits of past generations are able to be more easily exalted alongside the structures that adorned their lives. Feeling the increasingly diminished existence of the past, whether due to the natural or human causes, intensifies the need for growing and complex expert collaborations. As technology advances, the scope of this need expands. While the lifespan of the ancient works subject to preservation may be extended to a period that even those who built them could not have anticipated. Many interventions made under the name of reinforcement can extend the structure's life far beyond the original intention of its construction, but the use of foreign materials and systems imposed by new technology can estrange it from its original form. If the prerequisite for interventions made in the name of preserving the past is to establish a scientific but cold relationship with it, then it requires to question the content of the approach aimed at prolonging its life or preserving its structure, because this situation can place us at a risk of producing new taxidermies in order to exalt our current agenda through the past. Trying to preserve cultural heritage that has long lost its original users by propping it up with foreign materials, techniques, and functions is, in a way, like trying to raise lifeless bodies. The price we make history pay for trying to preserve it without asking its opinion may estrange it from us, so we can seek better ways to heal them without becoming more alienated from the past, from which we are drifting further away with every passing second. The transition from type to prototype has created a revolution in architecture, while also exhausting the lifespan of functional structures. The mass-produced and short-lived modern buildings we live in today are so ephemeral that we will never be able to wonder what they will become in the future. This inevitably prevents us from attributing historical value to them, much like the era we are living in. However, whether we like it or not, the period we are experiencing will also find its place on the stage of history. Yet, history is more about necessities than choices. Even though it's written from left to right, it can be read from right to left. The relentless effort of historical beaters to defy time and maintain their existence should inspire us, who are dedicated to preserving them, and we must proceed with patience on our path. Even being the listener to the mysteries and stories that each of the countless works we work to preserve has hidden for centuries will grant us special and exceptional pleasures that others may not understand. I too am here to share the lesser-known mysteries of Hagia Sophia and the things I have learned through the patience I have shown it's trying to understand it. Like other emblematic monuments, Hagia Sophia is a school from which one never can graduate. New generations like ours and those before us also have much to learn from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassan. We very much appreciate your dedication to Hagia Sophia and the fact that you interact with the international scientific community, informing about your new discoveries and about major projects of preservation, like, for instance, Hagia Sophia Dome, and for the findings at the podium, which is very important because it opens again the international visibility of the monument as a monument of history. That means a museum. We are very sorry for the fact that the Greek-Turkish cooperation has been seized on the level of cultural cooperation, and that Hagia Sophia is not anymore museum, but it is very important that scientific community is being dedicated and preserves it, and we very much appreciate it. I have the honor to invite Professor Ismini Kriari to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Professor Moropoulou, distinguished guests. It is really a great honor for me to be here today and in that very interesting panel for this conference, which has already a very rich past, and I'm sure it will also have a very rich future. So I'm going to talk about Greek monuments which are a bit far away, about two graves which are in the Donskoy Cemetery in Moscow. Donskoy Cemetery belongs to the Donskoy Monastery, which is one of the oldest monasteries in Russia, a monastery of particular historical importance, with graves of rich Russian families like the Turgenevs, of very well-known actors, painters like Perov and Serov. And there you find two graves of two Greek merchants in the late 18th and in the beginning of the 19th century. These graves, Moscow was one of the European cities alongside Marseille, Trieste, Livorno, Vienna, Budapest, Paris, London, and many others in Egypt and in the Ottoman Turkey, where the Greek merchants had traveled, they had lived, worked, and thrived there. They made immense fortunes. And these two died also in Moscow unexpectedly, and with their fortunes they contributed to many buildings and welfare institutions in Greece. The two families are the Hatzikonsta and Bizosimas families, and the tombs are decorated with black basalt urns with carved epigrams in Greek language, which inform the visitor of the lives of the two deceased. The reader gets an idea of the typical itinerary of the Greek merchants of the time, and also an idea of the grammar and syntax of the Greek language in that period. I present you a translation of the text as faithful to their contents as possible. The first tomb is of Theodosios Dosimas, son of Paul, and it gives details of his life. He was born in Epirus, in northern Greece, in the city of Ioanna, which does not forget its glorious and noble citizens. He was an entrepreneur of great caliber with commercial activities in Asia and Europe, and at the same time he offered many donations to his fellow citizens, to his relatives and friends. At that time, he lived in Livorno, in Italy. His business was flourishing for 15 years, but he wished to visit his two brothers in Russia, who also were merchants with flourishing businesses in Moscow, and then to return to Livorno again. He arrived in Petersburg in good health, and then by the grace of God he came to Moscow, where he unexpectedly died aged 36 years of age. He lived as a bachelor with honor, following the Orthodox dogma. He was greatly respected and enjoyed a great reputation. The Almighty God may rest him in peace and bring him in the bosom of Abraham, 4th October 1791. In 1793, the four remaining brothers of the deceased Theodosios Dosimas, at that age of 35 or 40 years old, decided to remain bachelors and to dedicate their colossal fortune to benefactory actions for the Greek population at that time under Ottoman rule. They founded schools, orphanages, houses for the poor, churches, and they left a special trust for the daughters of Greek girls. Further, they financed the publishing of books, which contributed to the enlightenment of the Greek population, and they ordered these books to be given gratis to pupils and students in all Greek schools in the Greek-speaking Orient. In 1828, they founded the Zosimea School of Ioannina, a beacon of Greek education for many decades. The second tomb has the following epigram, where the funerary style addresses itself to the visitor of the tomb. I am guarding the body of the late Hatsikostas, who died by a higher decision. He came from the land of Epirus, from the city of Ioannina. He was of noble Greek ancestors. He lived a modest, pious, thoughtful, and honored life. He was not married, and he reached the age of 60 years. He left his body to the earth, his mind and soul to God. So I am now securing the bones of your body, and I praise in silence your fame and wisdom, and I hope Jesus Christ will keep you among his saints. Your sweet brother came with his children from Byzance, that is Constantinople, now Istanbul, and dedicated in your honor this stele, following the duty of a close relative and suffering from your loss his whole life in 1815. That brother of Hatsikostas lived since the age from 15 in Constantinople, and he dedicated his fortune, together with the fortune of the deceased brother, to the erection of 2 hospitals in Greece, the one in Moussaloghi and the orphanage Hatsikostas in Athens, the capital of the newly founded independent state of Greece. These 2 epigrams give in a lapidary way the main elements of the lives of 2 exemplary Greek merchants who followed the modus vivendi of all the successful Greeks at the time. The Greek merchants were mainly from the city of Ioannina or from other towns of Epirus, a region well known for the adventurous spirit of its inhabitants, and they emigrated very early in their life in order to seek a better future, first in Constantinople or in other rich cities of the Ottoman Empire, and then in Europe. We read that they were in Livorno, in Italy, and then in Moscow, and then in Petersburg. They lived mostly around the Greek Orthodox Church, the rites of which cemented their national and cultural identity, and they contributed to the education of the enslaved Greeks. Some of them lived austere and solitary lives in order to build great fortunes, which they dedicated to the Greek cause, that is, the liberation of Greece from the Ottoman regime, and later the embellishment of the poor independent Greek state with great edifices, mostly dedicated to education. Among them are the Zappas brothers, who erected the Zapion Mengaro and the Zapion schools, George Averov, who donated the battleship Averov, and many others. In these epigrams, one can decipher the most important values of the Greek merchant of the time. Their love for their native country they left at a very young age, but which they always remember, and it is mentioned in the first lines of these epigrams. Both men are characterized as Greek, of noble Greek origin, at a time when there was no Greek state. The importance of the family ties, which are not withered by the distance or the lapse of time. The professional success extended not only in Europe but also in Asia. As it is mentioned, many of the profits were given in large amount for charities. The faith in God and in the Orthodox religion, which offered them the spiritual compass they followed, although they lived in societies with other mentality and ideas. I gave you the translation of the content. Allow me to read the first epigram, because the substance is one thing, but the melody of the language and the mentality is another. So allow me to read it for the Greek audience. Ενθά δε κοίτε υπογείντο του Θεοδοσίου, Γρεκού Παυλίδου Ζωσιμά, σώμα ανδρός τιμίου. Ήπειρος αυτού πατρίς, πόλης Ιωαννίνων, ου καμνησί των ευγενή και ένδοξος εκείνων. Μεθύρχετο εμπορική Ασίας και Ευρώπης, τα βέλτιστα επιτελών ποικίλης είδε τρόπης. Διού πολύ ομογενείς τότε ευεργετούντο, ως αυτός και οι συγγενείς και φίλοι ωφελούντο. Και μάλιστα καθόν καιρόν υπήρχε εις Μεσσηνίαν και αν Λιβόρνο ευπραγών πάσαν φιλανθρωπίαν, ευορευόμενος εκεί με τα διαφόρων προϊόντων εν όλη τη διατριβή των 15 χρόνων, αλλά έπειτα πόθον έλαβε να έλθει εις Ρωσία, ή να των 2 αδελφών έβρει την παρουσίαν. Επισκοπό μεθού πολύ μέλλον επανακάμψει, των Ελιβόρνων αδελφών πάλιν επαπολαύσει. Εμίσευσεν από εκεί των Μάσιων Ιων μήναν, Πετρουπόλη έφτασεν με τέλειαν υγείαν. Κακήθεν δε όθε ελθόν χάρτη του Κυρίου, ετών 36 απήλθεν εκ του βίου. Ζήσας αζύγος, ευπρεπός, εντίμος, ορθοδόξος, μεθυπολήψιος πολλής, σέμνοστε και ενδόξος. Ο δε Πανάγαθος Θεός ήθε επαναπαύσει και εν της κόλπης Αβραάμ αυτόν συγκατατάξει. I hope that Professor Monopoulou and her team and the Greek engineers, with their immense know-how, will devote some of their activities also to the monuments of the Greek diaspora, not only because they are monuments that belong to the art history, but because they belong to the Greek history, to the development of the Greek state, and also to the history of that part of the world, because they bear testimony to the itineraries of Greek merchants to the Balkan countries, to the Ottoman Empire, to the Black Sea states, and through them one can see how intertwined our populations are, how intertwined our history is, how our culture, civilization, and shared memories are all of them laid on these monuments, be them churches, be them orphanages or schools, which are scattered everywhere in Romania, in Bulgaria, and also in the southern of France, in Egypt, in Russia, in Ukraine. All these monuments of the Greek diaspora bear testimony of our shared past, and I want to think of our shared future. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kriari. It is indeed a fact that the Greeks belong to the world, and their history in life and in death belongs to World Heritage. Thank you very much. I have the honor to invite Spiros Papas for his intervention.
Thank you, Professor Moropoulou. Let me join all previous speakers by stating how honored I am to be here today, and by paying tribute to all those they have contributed to this repetitive conference, in particular to Professor Moropoulou, a servant of culture, I would say, with consistency and perseverance. We need it. Tonya, please keep it going. And this brings me to my intervention today, which it will be different. The reason is that I'm not an engineer. I don't come from this fantastic world. Therefore, I have a slightly different approach. We are in a very particular moment at this moment in our history, European history, but also universal history. We live in the era of the Trumpian threats. And this is the reason why, after some months of the publication of the Draghi report, the European Union recalled this text, this report, and made of it a kind of guideline, a kind of evangel, I would say, gospel even. In this regard, in relation to this Draghi report, it is interesting to note that it acknowledges prosperity as one of the European values. And not only just prosperity, prosperity in a sustainable environment. Now, prosperity is not one of the European values according to the European Treaty, the Treaty on the European Union. It might be an objective, but it is not a value. And sustainable environment in the text of Professor Draghi is not meant in the meaning we mean it here. It is not meant in the meaning of durable environment, respect to environment. It is meant in terms of security, defense. So the guideline today is prosperity and defense. And to have prosperity, we have to defend ourselves. And all the priorities, three major priorities, are are focused on competitiveness. Culture is absent. Culture is not mentioned even one time in the 66 pages of this report. It does not appear at all. And this is a paradox, I would say, because each time we are confronted as Europeans with a crisis, with a threat, and there have been many in our history, we have reacted in a unity and with solidarity. Why? Because thanks to our culture, thanks to our identity, which is not very well defined, but it does exist somewhere. And this is, I would say, for Europeans, the shield and the spear culture, how to confront the threats. In this regard, I would say that material cultural heritage holds a significant role because it is the reminder of our old beliefs and of crucial moments of our history. The cultural heritage links the past with the present, and it becomes in this way the compass for the future. Just to think a little bit, what would the mankind be without memory? Under this angle, I would say that the Evlogon project is more than a restoration effort. It is a model of transdisciplinary and transnational cooperation with deep societal resonance. As a former Director General in the European Commission, I've seen how impactful cultural heritage can be when integrated into education, innovation, economics, and diplomacy, in politics. Restoration of emblematic monuments like the Holy Edicule is not just technical, it is symbolic. It involves theology, law, geoinformatics, earthquake engineering, and social sciences. It represents unity and pluralism to attain the impossible irrespective of differences. Professor Moropoulou gave a good example, the Greek-Turkish cooperation. These projects help preserve values while engaging in dialogue with a broader society. They promote peace, identity, and intercultural understanding. Consequently, I would say the European Union needs more determination, not just words, and stable frameworks for supporting such cross-border interdisciplinary missions, especially in culturally or geopolitically sensitive areas. Networks like Argo, the European Union Hellenic Network, demonstrate how civil society and diaspora can help mobilize support and visibility for such efforts. We should envision an open European Civic Heritage Network. I repeat, European Civic Heritage Network, linking experts, policymakers, citizens, and institutions to protect and promote our shared cultural legacy, our European identity that is open to all other cultures. Let's also support the development of joint academic programs on monument restoration and heritage diplomacy with mobility, shared curricula, and European degrees. In conclusion, cultural heritage is not about the past. It's a tool for shaping resilient, connected societies in the present and the future. It has so far been, is, and will be the answer to the Trumpian threats of all times. Irrespective of whatever, the Eiffel Tower and the Statue of Liberty will remain there, and I hope President Trump will not manage to pull them down. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Spiros. It was an excellent call for this European Civic Network, and I will keep it in Evlogon as a call apart from the national network. And I asked Hassan, would you join this European civic network? That's the question which you are appealing and you are addressing to us. With this occasion, I would like to say that a call for European Partnership for Resilient Cultural Heritage under Horizon Europe is at the desk outside for your signature because Greece is left aside and we want to be in. So please sign it, not only the Greeks, whoever, Europeans in the broader sense. It's now time, after this broadening, to go back to Earth, and I will invite Professor Haris Mouzakis, emeritus today, to take the floor and speak about the structural integrity and earthquake protection. He assured
Thank you,
us, working with us in this moment.
Mrs. Professor Moropoulou. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to present you has to do with the structural health monitoring of monumental structures. How I can change the...
No. Sorry.
When we say health monitoring, we have to record data, we have to monitor this data and evaluate the results and find what are the dynamic characteristics of the structure, what are the applied forces on the structure, the deformations and movements of the whole monument. And nowadays, what we want to do is mainly to use as more as we can wireless sensors without cables in order to avoid having cables in the monuments. We record and save this data, and we have verify them with the results we can get with geodetic monitoring that will be done at the end either of the restoration of the structure or even during the restoration of the structure, and mainly at the end, in order to know if changes will appear after a strong earthquake. When we have a structure during the restoration or rehabilitation, we need to have an early warning system in order to avoid damages that will take place if some fault decisions will be done during this construction. That's why we use some thresholds to all this recorded data in order to avoid to have damages. Then we are doing system identification, and we can evaluate the dynamic characteristics of the structure by using either micro tremors or small earthquakes that can take place during the construction period. What we want finally to know is what is the mass and the stiffness of the structure, and that's why we need to record mainly acceleration or velocity or displacement data, and then we can have in mind what Hippocrates was teaching his students as we have to do with the health of the structure, that when we have a structure, we have to start with asculating the patient. Εκ της ακροάσεως αρχόμεθα, έλεγε ο Ιπποκράτης στους γιατρούς, και πράγματι οι γιατροί ξεκινάνε με το να ακροαστούν τους ασθενείς. Επομένως, therefore we have to auscultate our structures, and it is important in medicine that the doctor is able to observe the patient. Therefore, he was telling that μέγα της τέχνης ήγευμε το δύναστε σκοπήν, δηλαδή πρέπει να παρατηρούμε τις κατασκευές έτσι ώστε να έχουμε τα δεδομένα τους για να ξέρουμε την υγεία τους, to know the health of the structures. In the case of the restoration of the Holy Edicule at Jerusalem, Professor Moropoulou explained in details previously, we had a multimodal performance health monitoring system. We had sensors for measuring air temperature and relative humidity in the structure as well as in the walls of the structure. We had accelerometers to record the earthquakes if were going to take place during the rehabilitation. We had also embedded sensors even on the ground, and geodetic network that was permanently recording the displacements of the monument. And finally, we managed to finish it without any damages, and there wasn't any need to take some additional measures. And that was important, that we managed to finish in time the project. That's all. I would like to thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Haris. I think we can go to the discussion. There are many questions posed, technical and non-technical, so I would like to invite the hall to react. First of all, Kostas Tokmakidis from Aristotle University of Salonika. And to say that Mr. Sarakiotis, an MP from the Greek Parliament, is attending as well.
Thank you very much, Professor Moropoulou. All speakers have pointed very important issues concerning interdisciplinarity and also preserving monuments. And since I have been about 45 years in surveying monuments and making maps of monuments or archaeological sites. I will refer to Mrs. Kriari because she spoke about Livorno. And Livorno has a very interesting cemetery with Greek tombs that are marvelous. It's better than the first cemetery of Athens. And also it has a church there, which we did a survey at 2018, I mean 7 years ago, but never one has asked the results of our survey because we have been invited from the Hellenism in Venice, because it belongs also of the Greek old past cemetery. And then probably they forget to ask the results. And if you have any connection, and I am open to give the results to will ask for them, even though we haven't been paid for this.
I have to say that to Professor Elisabetta Gentry from Ca' Foscari University of Venice, who will participate at the last panel of this day on novel education. I am sure she will hear you about this. Professor Priari, do you have to respond?
Thank you very much for your comment. And unfortunately, this is also a story of Greek tradition that people go and work for some projects and nobody is interested to learn about the outcomes of their work. And most importantly, this happens also in the case of the monuments of the Greek diaspora. This is exactly what I said, that in the whole of Europe, in many, many cities, there are monuments which bear testimony to the people who lived there, who were of Greek origin, who worked there, who had made fortunes, and these monuments incorporate great waves of art. You can see that in the churches, in the schools. In Austria, it is the great hall where the Vienna Philharmonic performs each year and which was financed by Dunda. And you have everywhere monuments of the Greek diaspora in the cities of North Africa, in the cities of Southern Europe. And unfortunately, it is we, the Greeks, who have abandoned them. The population does not live here any longer. They don't live in the Danube cities. They don't live in Romania and Bulgaria. But we have forgotten and we have abandoned our own past. And this is actually lamentable. That's why I think that if there are some people who could take an initiative, and I hope that Mrs. Moropoulou will take that initiative and will launch a campaign for remembering them, for mentioning them, for downwriting them, so that we can still have a connection with that past, which is not only ours, it is European, it is human.
Thank you, Professor Kriari. Professor Roko Zarnic, Ljubljana University, prior Minister of Environment of Slovenia. Roko.
Thank you very much for intervention regarding Draghi's document. Well, how I see on these things, it's political issue. And here, all this, what we are doing these days, must have also political impact. So we should show our strength to defend our position. And nowadays, Europe is a bit in panic and all goes to militarization. But what we are doing, we are those whose values should be preserved. And I don't know how, but Greek is a strong country. We have a European Parliament. Everybody has somebody who knows. I have no idea what to do, just concrete. But we have to do something to raise our voice, use this environment we have these days and other, and to lobby strongly. Tony and me, we lobbied quite well in 6th framework, in 7th framework, in Horizon 2020. Now we are I'm a little tired, retired, but I think we can do if we work hard. And thank you very much for your intervention. It's very, very important, not just crying about, but acting. Thank you.
Thank you, Roko. Is there any other reaction? No? Professor, yes, please. Professor, please say your name and university.
Yes, I think it works. I have appreciated a lot the entire panel discussion, but especially the intervention of Professor Bouzakis about vibration-based structural health monitoring, because we have experienced a lot in that field in Italy, together with my colleague Professor Saisi. We have monitored in the past several historical towers, masonry towers, several historical bridges, and at present we are monitoring the Cathedral of Milan since about 7 years. My critical point is about the use of wireless sensor, because in our experience, Wireless sensors are very good, but have two main issues. The one is sensitivity in some cases, and the other one is that it's quite easy. They do not just work for a short period, and afterwards you cannot have response. I would like to add that generally in Italy we work with continuous system, so 24 hours on 24 hours. Thank you for.
Your comment. You are correct, and we have phenomena like opening and closing of cracks, displacements that happen due to the change of the temperature in the monument, and things like this that I call them static phenomena. All these static phenomena, I think that the wireless system is the best to use by avoiding the cables. When we have to record earthquakes, then of course we are not using wireless sensors, but we are using sensors with cables. That's clear, as we want to have common timing and common triggering for the sensors.
Okay, so basically your experience is in close agreement with ours. We are basically involved in vibration-based structural health monitoring. And we have had bad experience with wireless sensor, where we have had very good experience with wireless sensor as you. Thank you.
Thank you. Another reaction from the hall? Yes, Dr. Zorbas.
I'd like to come back to Mr. Papas, because I was for many years in Brussels in the permanent representation of Greece in the European Union. My question and my problem was why we have so big distance with different texts. Because we have the Lisbon Treaty, we have an emphasis in the culture, in the values of the European values, etc. We have the Article 17 with dialogue with the religions and the European institutions. And finally, we are now 2025, and we start from the zero. Why we have this distance?
Yeah, thank you for both interventions in this regard, because it is indeed a serious issue, I would say. May I remind you what is attributed to Jean Monnet? If I had to start again with the community, I would start with culture. It is not certain that he has stated that, but it is certain that he believed in culture. Now, I mentioned the paradox that culture is our shield, but when the moment comes, we forget it entirely. Not only that, there were moments, and I have experienced these moments, that culture was under threat. There are voices in the European Union to abolish any involvement in the cultural field, to abolish even the Erasmus project. Now, this is an unwritten history. Maybe it will be very interesting that this is put on paper for our memory. Now, I answer your question. The answer is that, according to the treaty, culture is not a competence of the Union. What is it? It is just an action. What does it mean, an action? To support member states. It is not bad. Sometimes I say that via actions we can become more efficient. But in the case of culture, it is a handicap because of what I have explained. Because culture, when it matters, it is forgotten entirely. And again, I repeat, it is an open discussion, and nobody can rule out that if the treaties are rediscussed, the Draghi vision or drive would prevail. I'm not critical against Draghi. Draghi is excellent. What he did is excellent. But he had, at this moment, to put a priority on growth. But does it mean that culture should be forgotten? I can tell you that I have participated in a top-level meeting in the European Commission where it was stated by official people that, okay, environment, protection of environment, okay, culture, okay, social inclusion, but now we have to focus on productivity. So all will be interpreted under this headline, productivity, which means lesser protection for environment, lesser protection for health, and all of that. This is the danger. Therefore, I suggest that we should raise our voices, either to make of culture a competence also of the Union, yet limited, or set up a network such as you have recommended, and give to this network on European civic heritage network, this network, to give to it some official standing by acknowledging, letting it to be acknowledged by the European Union.
Thank you, Spiros. One last minute from Rocco, and then 1 minute from each one of you of the panel to conclude. Rocco.
Thank you. Just to mention, what is the date of Draghi's document? We are in dynamic time. Things are changing. Now, administration Brussels is afraid of what's coming, not what it was. Now is a chance for us, maybe, to initiate the Ministry of Culture of Greece, or Greece, ministerial conference. I know how it works. I was one of them 15 years ago, or 12 years ago. Just a call, like we had the housing conference in Toledo about other issues, to call specific conference, what is the position of cultural heritage in coming threat years, and all what's happening can be beneficial for us. So I would go in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocco. Professor Georgopoulos.
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting discussion and very interesting issues. I would like to be more, let's say, optimistic to what was heard. It's my impression that the European Union is not neglecting culture. In fact, there is a big effort now going on of building a collaborative cloud, as it is called, on cultural heritage. And it's materialized, let's say, through a financed project with 51 partners and 25 million. The project is called ECHOS, and it's under the European Collaborative Cloud of Cultural Heritage. And this will end up with, let's say, a very big live database for all heritage assets of the European Union and beyond that. So I think we should be a little bit optimistic. That doesn't mean that we don't have to take the actions that we heard here. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas. Professor Mouzakis, your minute.
We have to intensify our forces in order to use structural health monitoring in monuments, either they are in operation or they are during the construction phase.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Hassan Firat Diker.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I leave the excitement for the presentation. I will do in 10 minutes. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Hassan. Professor Kriari.
Thank you very much. I am in the same line as our colleague, and I think that we should be optimistic, but also at the same time, I think that we should strengthen our efforts to convince the political leaders that besides economy and besides diplomacy, there is also a shared past which is actually intertwined with culture. And as far as Greece is concerned, I think that we should work to make a record. Today, we don't know what are the Greek monuments built by the Greek diaspora, at least in Europe and in North Africa. We don't have a catalog of what is Greek in all these states. For instance, just to mention three things, we have the Greek cemetery in Şişli in Istanbul, we have the Greek cemetery in Balıklı in Istanbul, we have the Greek cemetery in Alexandria, the Greek cemetery in Cairo, we have the Greek cemeteries in all European countries where lived and thrived the Greek diaspora, and we don't know them. We don't know the buildings, we don't know the tombs, we don't know the churches, we don't know any other thing of the traces, of the tangible traces of the Greek diaspora. And it's our responsibility to try to convince the political heads to pay attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Papas.
I have a lot to add, but I will limit myself to the following. Culture is not a matter of money and of supporting projects. Culture is beyond that. Projects may be abolished or reviewed, and this is what we are going to experience as from now, because money is needed for defense. Thank you.
Thank you. Permit me to say that if we need to keep heritage alive, and that's for sure an aim of all of us, we need to keep alive the relationship between monuments, cities, sites, and society. That means to keep our eyes open, the eyes of our soul. That means to sustain culture, not only to sustain monuments, to sustain culture. Through sustaining culture, we will motivate political will, which is imperative and is now oriented to another end. So in order to keep heritage alive, stand with culture, an alive European and world culture, more important than ever, a world heritage culture, which will keep humanity in the path of a future and sustainability. Thank you very much.